I've just finished the show here in Perth. So Katie Hopkins' Silly Cow in Perth, in Scotland. Oh, and I've snuck into the table and chair storage of this hotel, in order just to kind of do a quick summary of what went on. Now, you will appreciate that here in Scotland, Humza Yousaf introduced the very unpopular Hate Crime Act in Scotland, which makes it a criminal offence if you intend to cause offence to any protected group or protected category, or someone who might be disabled or have a religious background. If someone perceives that maybe you try to make them feel threatened or hurt, they can report you for hate crime. I mean, it's such a nebulous bill. It has no robust metrics to it. It has no qual or quants to it. So it can be applied really disproportionately and used really much more as a weapon. 50% of Scottish people want it repealed because they see that not only does it endanger freedom of speech, which is all but non-existent anyway, but it's also a very dangerous law because it can be applied very subjectively. Anyway, I'm here in Perth in Scotland to do my Silly Cow. And what's, I think, interesting from my point of view is I had some thoughts about how I would do the show tonight. And I had some thoughts about the material that I speak about and whether I would change any of it because of where we are, and because I could do without being arrested in Scotland and being banned from another country. You know, I'm banned from South Africa, I'm banned from Australia. I could do without being banned from Scotland or arrested and not be able to do the rest of the tour that I've committed to, because I don't want to let people down. And then I thought to myself that it would be entirely disingenuous to change the material that I cover. I mean, it changes every night, but to change the material that I cover, because what am I doing? Am I going to change what I'm going to say, which I believe in and I know that there's comedy in? Am I going to change that in order to try and protect myself? Or am I going to censor myself in order to mean that, I won't get into trouble? Am I going to give this audience a less fun time by trying to tiptoe around rules that are completely irrational? And so I made a deal with myself that I would just go for broke. I wouldn't change anything particularly. I wouldn't censor. If anything, I would say I've gone further tonight, because if there's rules or the thought of being censored, it tends to make me, more naughty than I would otherwise be, like a small child told not to do something, therefore I have to do it. And actually, we had Police Scotland here at the venue earlier, just checking things, making sure everything was good. And the officers were very fun, very friendly. I invited them to come along if they wished to come along. And they also told me, one of the officers told me, that they're supporters and that they actually support much of what I do. Whether that's true or not, regardless, I just went for it this evening and stated a few things at the front end very, very clearly. And I think a few things off the back of that. Number one, thanks to the amazing audience here in Perth that turned up, had a brilliant time and got to laugh and feel better. Thanks to the venue for having us here. And the staff all had fun. They all came into the back and enjoyed the show as well, which was brilliant. Thanks to Police Scotland for being supportive and not in any way trying to interfere. But mostly just to provide, I guess, a word of reassurance to people. There's been a lot of people chasing headlines or their little moment by saying, in Scotland now, you can't do comedy or you can't do stand-up, you can't be funny. But my view is you can't be made smaller by rules. You can't allow irrational rules to make you smaller. You can't allow the madness to get you to censor. People are self-censoring everywhere, every day, all the time. And it's why people feel exhausted without even knowing it. Because everywhere you go in every part of your day, you're having to self-censor with family, self-censor with children, self-censor with friends, in the workplace, trying not to say the wrong thing, trying not to have conflict. It is so important to let that down sometimes when you feel you could be in an environment where you trust everybody just to want you to be okay. It's so important to let go and to release. And that's what these events are doing. And personally, it's so important that I remain really authentic to being committed to saying whatever the hell I want to say when I know the intent was never to threaten or target anybody. The intent is to make people laugh at the madness and to feel better. And so I have to be authentic to that as well. So it's been really interesting for me from that point of view. It's been brilliant to hear a room of people just fall about. And I'm so grateful to everyone that, that emails and writes in and says, look, I laughed until my face hurt, or I haven't barely laughed like that in forever. And one of the most magic things that sets me off any day of the week is the fact that as a part of it, I want to find out when people were born. And there's people in there tonight born in the 1940s, and the room spontaneously erupts into applause. That sets me off because there's respect for our elderly. And then there's people in the room tonight, 1990s, 2000s. And what a brilliant thing that people born, generations apart are in a room laughing together and feeling better. And I honestly don't know what else is out there that is so kind of inclusive in the way that it's bringing people together. So thank you to Perth. Thank you to Scotland and Edinburgh. Stand by your beds.